My name is Sarah, and I suppose you could say I'm a professional night owl. I've never been good with the 9 to 5 grind. Something about fluorescent lights and small talk over coffee makes my skin crawl. Give me the graveyard shift any day. The quiet, the solitude, the sense that you're seeing a version of the world most people never experience. I've had my share of overnight gigs. I've monitored security feeds at an empty shopping mall where the escalators ran all night for no reason. I've cataloged specimens in a university lab where the refrigeration units hummed like they were having conversations. I even spent 6 months as a live-in caretaker for an elderly woman who claimed her house was built on top of a collapsed theater, and sometimes you could hear applause coming from the floorboards. None of those jobs lasted long. Not because I couldn't handle them, I'm good at what I do, but because eventually every strange job becomes routine. The weird stuff stops being weird. You stop paying attention, and when that happens, it's time to move on. I don't own much. A laptop, a few changes of clothes, a collection of voice recorders I picked up at thrift stores because I like documenting things. I sleep in my car more often than not, shower at gyms, eat whatever's open at 3 a.m. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. People assume I'm running from something, maybe a bad relationship or debt or some dark secret. I'm not. I just prefer the margins, the edges of things, the places where normal rules start to bend. That's why, when I saw the ad for a night security guard at the Riverside Natural History Museum, I didn't hesitate. The listing was bare bones. Overnight shift, solo work, must be comfortable with isolation. No degree required. No references needed. Just show up for the interview and prove you can handle being alone. The museum itself sits on the north end of town, tucked between a defunct railway line and a stretch of woods that nobody hikes through anymore. It's one of those buildings that looks bigger on the inside than it should. 3 floors of exhibits, research rooms, and storage areas that seem to go on forever. The interview lasted 10 minutes. The director, a tired-looking man named Dr. Brennan, asked me 2 questions. Can you stay awake all night? And are you easily frightened? I said yes to the first and no to the second. He handed me a key card and a uniform. That was 5 weeks ago. I work 6 nights a week, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The pay is decent. The building is climate controlled. There's a break room with a coffee maker and a microwave. On paper, it's the easiest job I've ever had. But there are rules here, specific ones, and I've started to notice things, small things at first, that don't quite add up. The other guard, Marcus, works the alternate nights. We overlap for about 15 minutes during shift changes. He's older, maybe mid-50s, with the kind of weathered face that suggests he's seen things he doesn't talk about. He's polite, but distant. Gives me updates on anything unusual, hands over the logbook, then leaves without lingering. Last week, as he was heading out, he paused at the door and said, "Don't go into the Paleontology Hall after 2 a.m. Just don't." I asked why. He shook his head. "You'll figure it out. Or you won't. Either way, it's better if you learn it yourself." Then he was gone. I've been keeping notes since then, not official reports. Those go in the logbook. These are personal observations, strange occurrences, things I can't quite explain but also can't ignore. This museum has a history. I've started digging into it, reading old articles, talking to Marcus when he's willing, piecing together fragments of information that don't appear in any brochure. And I'm starting to think there's a reason they only hire people like me. People who are used to being alone, people who won't ask too many questions, people who are already comfortable living on the edges of things. There's a display case in the Paleontology Hall that doesn't have a placard. Every other exhibit in the museum is meticulously labeled: species name, time period, location of discovery, donor information. The museum takes pride in its educational accuracy, but this one case, positioned in the back corner near the emergency exit, has nothing, just a thick sheet of reinforced glass and a fossilized skeleton curled inside. It's small, maybe the size of a house cat. The bones are dark, almost black, and arranged in a position that suggests the creature died suddenly. Spine arched, limbs drawn in tight, jaw open. I noticed it my first night. I was doing my initial walkthrough, learning the layout, and when I passed by it, I stopped. There was something unsettling about it. Not scary, exactly. Just wrong. Like looking at an optical illusion that your brain can't quite process. I checked the museum directory, nothing, no entry for that specific display, no mention in the digital catalog. I asked Marcus about it during our next overlap. "The unlabeled one?" he said, not looking at me. "Yeah, what is it?" He was quiet for a moment, then, "Nobody knows." "What do you mean nobody knows? It's a museum. Someone donated it. Someone cataloged it." "Not that one," Marcus said, finally meeting my eyes. "It's been here longer than anyone can remember. Before the current director, before the renovations, before the museum even had a formal collection." "So what, it just appeared?" "Something like that." He zipped up his jacket. "Look, I don't know the full story, but there's a reason there's no label, and there's a reason we don't go near it after 2 a.m. That should have been enough to make me leave it alone. But I've never been good at leaving things alone. The first time I broke the rule, unintentionally, it was around 2:45 a.m. I was doing my rounds, checking doors, making sure the motion sensors were active. The Paleontology Hall is on the second floor, and it's one of the coldest parts of the building. I always save it for last. As I walked past the unlabeled case, I heard something, a faint scratching sound, like nails on glass. I stopped. The hall was empty. The lights were dimmed to their overnight setting, just enough to see by, not enough to feel safe. I turned slowly toward the case. The skeleton was still there. Same position, same curled, defensive posture. But I swear, the jaw was open wider than before. I stood there for a full minute, watching, listening. The scratching sound didn't come again. Eventually, I convinced myself it was just the building settling. Old pipes, thermal expansion, something rational. But when I walked away, I could feel it. That prickling sensation on the back of your neck when you know something is watching you. The second time it happened, I was ready. I brought my phone, set it to record video, propped it on a nearby bench with a clear view of the case. Then I stepped back and waited. 2:30 a.m. came and went. Nothing. 2:45 a.m., still nothing. Then at exactly 3 a.m., the scratching started again. I watched the case. The skeleton hadn't moved. But the sound was definitely coming from inside. Slow, deliberate, like something testing the limits of its enclosure. The temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. My breath fogged in front of me. The motion sensors along the ceiling flickered, their red LEDs blinking erratically. And then the skeleton moved. Not much, just a twitch. The front limb shifted slightly, bones scraping against the velvet lining of the case. The jaw closed, then opened again, slowly, mechanically. I grabbed my phone and ran. When I reviewed the footage later, it showed nothing. Just me standing there, staring at an empty case. No scratching, no movement, no temperature drop. But I know what I saw. I confronted Marcus the next night. "You need to tell me what that thing is," I said. He sighed. "It's complicated." "Uncomplicated." He looked at me for a long time. Then he pulled out a folder from his bag. Old yellowed papers inside. Photocopies of handwritten notes. "These are from the previous night guard." And the one before me. He kept records. I flipped through them. Most of it was routine, temperature checks, equipment logs, visitor counts. But near the end, there were entries that didn't match the official log. November 12th, case in Paleo Hall active. Did not approach. November 19th, heard movement at 3:07 a.m. Left hall immediately. December 3rd, it followed me to the stairwell. Didn't see it, but I felt it. December 10th, can't work here anymore, gave notice. "He quit?" I asked. Marcus nodded. 2 weeks later, they found him in his car, heart attack. He was 42. "You think the museum I don't think anything," Marcus interrupted. "I just follow the rules. And the rule is, don't go near that case after 2 a.m. I wanted to argue, to demand answers. But the look on his face told me he didn't have any. I haven't gone back to the Paleontology Hall after hours since then, but sometimes when I'm working on the first floor, I can hear it. That faint, scratching sound, drifting down through the vents. The museum has a storage area. Most museums do. It's where they keep the overflow. Artifacts that don't fit in current exhibits, donations they haven't processed yet, items awaiting restoration. Ours is in the West Wing basement. A long corridor lined with metal shelving units and plastic bins. Everything is labeled, cataloged, tracked in the database. Except for one room. It's at the very end of the hallway, a heavy door with no window, no label, no signage. Just a keypad lock and a laminated notice taped at eye level. Authorized personnel only do not enter without director approval. I'd walked past it dozens of times before I asked about it. Marcus shrugged. "No idea. It's been locked since before I started." "You've never been inside?" "Nope. And I don't plan to." "What's in there?" He gave me that look again, the one that said he knew more than he was willing to share. "Nothing we need to worry about." The storage room incident happened 3 weeks into my shift. I was restocking supplies in the basement, flashlight batteries, cleaning supplies, paperwork for the logbook. The West Wing storage area is the only place with a functioning printer, so I end up down there at least once a night. As I was leaving, I heard something, music, faint, muffled, coming from behind the locked door. I stopped and listened. It wasn't modern music, it sounded old, like a phonograph recording, scratchy, warped. The kind of tune you'd hear in a silent film or a dusty antique shop. I pressed my ear against the door. The music continued. Slow, melancholic. And beneath it, another sound. Footsteps. Someone was inside. I knocked. The music stopped instantly. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I knocked again. "Hello? Is someone in there?" Nothing. I pulled out my radio and called Marcus. "Hey, are you near the West Wing?" Static, then his voice. "No, I'm upstairs. Why?" "I think there's someone in the locked storage room." A long pause, then, "Get out of there." "What?" "Sarah, leave. Now." I didn't argue. I walked quickly, back down the hallway and up the stairs to the main floor. Marcus was waiting for me near the entrance. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." "But Marcus, there was someone—" "No," he said firmly. "There wasn't." "I heard music, footsteps." He rubbed his face. "You heard an echo, or the ventilation system, or your imagination. But you did not hear a person." "Why are you so sure?" "Because that room hasn't been opened in 30 years. He pulled out his own folder. This one thicker, more official looking. Inside were incident reports, maintenance logs, and a single photograph. The photo showed the locked door, but in this image it was open, and inside, nothing. Just an empty room. Concrete floor, bare walls, no shelves, no storage, nothing. This was taken in 1993, Marcus said, after the last person who went inside. "What happened to them?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "They don't work here anymore." "Did they quit?" "Not exactly." He closed the folder. "Look, I don't know what you heard, but that room stays locked for a reason, and the reason isn't to keep us out." I wanted to press him, to demand the full story, but the look in his eyes stopped me. I haven't gone near that door since. But some nights, when I'm working alone, I can still hear it. That faint, scratchy music, drifting up through the vents. The museum has 3 floors. That's what the directory says. That's what the fire escape map shows. Ground floor, second floor, third floor. But according to the original blueprints I found in the archives, the building only has 2. I discovered this by accident. I was looking for maintenance records, trying to figure out why the heating system in the Paleontology Hall was always malfunctioning, and stumbled across a box of architectural drawings in the back of the director's office. The plans were dated 1967. They showed a 2-story structure with a basement. No 3rd floor. No staircase leading up. But I've been to the 3rd floor. Multiple times. It's where they keep the administrative offices. Dr. Brennan's workspace. The staff lounge. The archives. So I looked for newer blueprints, renovations, expansions. Nothing. Every official document, every permit, every inspection report, every insurance filing lists the museum as a 2-story building. But the 3rd floor is there. I can walk up to it, touch the walls, open the doors. "So what's going on?" I asked Marcus if he'd ever noticed. "Noticed what?" "That the 3rd floor isn't on any of the original plans." He stared at me. "What are you talking about?" "The blueprints. The building was only supposed to have 2 floors. He frowned. "Sarah, the museum's always had 3 floors. I've worked here for 6 years. "But the documents—" "Forget the documents," he said. "Buildings change. Plans get updated. Maybe they just didn't file the paperwork properly." But I couldn't let it go. That night, I decided to explore the 3rd floor more carefully, map it out, see if I could find any evidence of when or how it was added. I started at the main staircase, climbed slowly, counted the steps. 22 to the 2nd floor, 22 more to the 3rd. The 3rd floor hallway was dimly lit, fluorescent bulbs that buzzed faintly. The air smelled different up here, stale, like nobody had opened a window in decades. I tried the 1st door, locked. The 2nd, also locked. The 3rd, Dr. Brennan's office, opened. Inside was exactly what you'd expect. Desk, filing cabinets, bookshelves lined with research materials, a coffee mug with dried rings inside. But something was off. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken of the blueprints. According to the plans, this room shouldn't exist. The building's roof line ended 20 feet below where I was standing. I walked to the window and looked out. The view was normal, the parking lot, the woods beyond, the streetlights along the road. But when I turned back toward the hallway, I noticed something. The walls were too thick. I paced the length of Dr. Brennan's office, 15 feet. Then I went back into the hallway and measured the distance between his door and the next. 25 feet, 10 feet of space, unaccounted for. I knocked on the wall. Solid, no echo, no hollow sound. I checked every room. On the third floor, same thing. Thick walls, extra space. Rooms that didn't quite line up with the hallway outside. And at the far end of the corridor, past the last office, there was a door I'd never noticed before. No label, no window, just a plain wooden door with a brass handle. I tried the handle. It opened. Inside was a staircase, narrow, steep, leading up. But there's nothing above the third floor. The building ends here. I climbed anyway. The stairs went up for what felt like too long. More than one flight, more than two. The walls pressed in close, no windows, no lights except for the dim glow filtering up from below. Finally, I reached the top. Another door. This one metal, industrial looking, with a small placard bolted to the surface. Observation deck staff access only. I opened it and stepped out onto a rooftop I'd never seen before. It was massive, flat, empty, the surface covered in old gravel and cracked tar paper, and in the center a single metal chair, facing the woods. I walked to the edge and looked down. The drop was wrong. Too far. The ground below looked impossibly distant, like I was standing on a building twice the height of the museum. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 3:33 a.m. And then I heard it. Footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate. The crunch of gravel under shoes. I turned. Nobody there. But the chair in the center of the roof was now facing me. I ran. Down the stairs. Through the door. Back into the third-floor hallway. I didn't stop until I was on the ground floor, standing in the bright fluorescent lights of the main lobby. My radio crackled. Marcus's voice. "You okay?" I pressed the button. "Yeah, why?" "You've been offline for 20 minutes. I was about to come looking for you." 20 minutes? I'd been gone for less than 5. I didn't tell Marcus what I found. Not yet, but I've been keeping an eye on that door at the end of the hallway. And sometimes, late at night, I see light coming from underneath it. Even though I know there's no power running to that staircase. There's someone who works in the museum during the day. I've seen evidence of them. Notes left in the logbook, reshuffled exhibits, fresh coffee in the break room pot that's still warm when I arrive at 10 p.m. But I've never met them. Marcus calls them the Curator. Not a curator. The Curator. Like it's a title rather than a job, like there's only ever been one and there only ever will be. The first time I asked about them was during my second week. I'd noticed that certain exhibits changed between my shifts. Not dramatically, but enough to be noticeable. A display of ancient pottery that had been arranged by size was now arranged by age. A taxidermied owl that faced left one night was facing right the next. Small things, deliberate things. Who's reorganizing the exhibits? I asked Marcus during our overlap. He didn't look up from the logbook. The Curator. Which curator? Dr. Brennan? No, the Curator. I waited for more explanation. None came. Okay, so what's their name? Marcus finally looked at me. Nobody knows. What do you mean nobody knows? They have to be on payroll. They have to have a name badge, an employee file. He shrugged. You'd think so. That wasn't good enough for me, so I did what I always do. I started digging. I asked Dr. Brennan about it the following week when he came in early for a board meeting. I caught him in the parking lot before sunrise, just as my shift was ending. Dr. Brennan, can I ask you something? He looked tired, clutching a travel mug of coffee, like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Of course. What is it? Who's the curator here? The one who works during the day? He blinked at me. Curator? We don't have a curator. Then who organizes the exhibits? Who decides what goes on display? Oh, that's a collaborative effort. The research staff, the volunteers, myself, when I have time. Why? I've just noticed. Things get moved around during the day. Exhibits get rearranged. I thought maybe there was someone in charge of that. Dr. Brennan looked puzzled. Well, we do have preservation protocols. Temperature-sensitive items get rotated. But there's no single person responsible for all of that. He paused. Has something been moved that shouldn't have been? No, I was just curious. He nodded, distracted, already thinking about his meeting. Well, if you notice anything out of place, just make a note in the logbook. We review those weekly. But Marcus insisted. Over the next few days, I pressed him for more information during our shift changes. How long has the curator been here? I asked. Longer than me. How long have you been here? 6 years. So they were here before you started? Yeah. And before Dr. Brennan? Marcus hesitated, then nodded. How is that possible? Brennan's been director for 9 years. I don't know, Sarah. I just know they've been here longer than anyone can remember. Have you ever seen them? Another pause. Longer this time. Once. That got my attention. What did they look like? Marcus closed the logbook slowly, like he was buying time to think. It was about 3 years ago. I came in early, around 5:30 a.m. instead of 6. I needed to grab something I'd left in my locker. He stared at the wall, remembering. I was walking through the Anthropology Hall and I saw someone standing in front of the ceremonial mask display, just standing there, completely still. And I called out, said good morning, asked if they were with the morning crew. What did they say? Nothing. They didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me. I got closer and he trailed off. And what? They were wearing old clothes, like really old, the kind of thing you'd see in a photograph from the 1950s. A long coat, a hat, formal but dated. Maybe they were a reenactor or a volunteer in costume? Marcus shook his head. That's what I thought. But when I got within about 10 feet, they just walked away, didn't hurry, didn't look back, just walked down the hall and around the corner. Did you follow them? Yeah. But when I turned the corner, they were gone, and there's no exit in that direction. Just the storeroom and a dead-end hallway. I felt a chill run down my spine. Did you tell anyone? I mentioned it to the previous director. He just laughed and said, "Oh, you met the curator." That's it? That's all he said? Yeah. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. After that conversation, I started paying closer attention to the changes happening during the day. Every morning when I arrived, I'd do a mental inventory. Check the exhibits. Note what was different. And there was always something. Books in the library section rearranged by publication date instead of topic. Fossils repositioned so they faced a different direction. Information placards rewritten in slightly different language, more precise, more academic. And always in the break room there was fresh coffee, still warm. Sometimes with a half-eaten pastry sitting on a napkin, as if someone had just stepped away. Then I found the first note. It was 3 weeks into my employment. I was logging a minor incident, a motion sensor that had malfunctioned in the gemstone exhibit, when I noticed a piece of paper tucked into the back of the log book. Cream-colored, heavy stock, the kind of paper that feels expensive. The handwriting was immaculate, old-fashioned cursive, each letter perfectly formed. To the night guard, please ensure the West Wing storage area remains secure. The collection mustn't be disturbed. Items have been placed in a specific order for preservation purposes. Thank you for your diligence. It was signed with a single initial, C. I showed it to Marcus the next night. He went pale. Where did you find this? In the logbook. Why? What's wrong? He didn't answer right away, just stared at the note like it was something dangerous. Then he carefully folded it and put it in his jacket pocket. Marcus, talk to me. Who is C? He looked around as if checking to make sure we were alone. Then he lowered his voice. The curator doesn't usually leave notes, not direct ones anyway. What do you mean, direct ones? Sometimes you'll find instructions, but they're always vague, typed, printed on museum letterhead. This, he touched his pocket, this is personal. So that means they're paying attention to you specifically. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Why would they do that? Marcus met my eyes. Because you've been asking questions. Going places you shouldn't, noticing things. I'm just doing my job. No, you're doing more than your job. And the curator knows it. Over the next few days, more notes appeared. One was tucked into my locker. The third-floor staircase should remain closed after 3 a.m. Please respect this boundary. Another was left on the security desk. Your observations are noted. Please refrain from entering the Paleontology Hall between 2 to 4 a.m. until further notice. Each one was written in that same elegant handwriting, each signed with C. I started feeling watched, not just by security cameras. I was used to those, but by something else, someone else. I'd be walking through the exhibits, and I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision. But when I turned, nothing was there. I'd hear footsteps above me on the third floor, even though I knew the building was empty. Once, while reviewing security footage, I saw a shadow pass through the Anthropology Hall at 4:17 a.m. It moved across 3 different camera angles, but when I went to investigate, there was no one there. The break room incidents started getting more personal. One night I arrived to find my favorite coffee blend already brewed. I'd never mentioned my preference to anyone. Another night, there was a sandwich in the fridge with my name on it, not a printed label, handwritten, in that same cursive script. It should have been comforting, helpful even, but it felt like surveillance. I decided to confront the situation directly. I stayed late one night, or early, I suppose. Instead of leaving at 6 a.m., I hid in the storage closet near the main entrance and waited. 6:15 a.m. came and went. The morning sun started filtering through the high windows. 6:30 a.m. I heard the front door unlock. Footsteps in the lobby. I peered through the crack in the closet door. A figure crossed the foyer, tall, wearing a long, dark coat and a wide-brimmed hat, moving with slow, deliberate steps. They paused at the security desk, picked up the logbook, read through my entries. I held my breath. Then they turned, and for just a moment I saw their face. Or rather, I didn't see it. Because where their face should have been, there was just emptiness. Not a mask, not a blur, just an absence of features. Like looking at a photograph, where someone had carefully erased a person's face, but left everything else intact. I must have made a noise, a gasp, or a sharp intake of breath, because the curator's head snapped toward the closet. We stayed like that for what felt like an eternity, them staring at the door, me frozen inside. Then they tilted their head slightly, and I heard a voice, not out loud, inside my head, calm, measured. Neither male nor female. You should have left when the day began, Sarah. They knew my name, but curiosity has always been your weakness, hasn't it? I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I am not your enemy. I am simply the keeper of this place. I maintain order. I preserve what must be preserved. I ensure that certain things remain contained. The figure stepped closer to the closet. You have seen things you were not meant to see, asked questions that should not be asked, but you are not the first, and you will not be the last. They reached toward the door handle. There are rules here, Sarah. Rules that exist for your protection. The storage room must remain sealed. The third floor must not be explored. The Paleontology Hall must be avoided at certain hours. The handle began to turn. These rules are not arbitrary. They are barriers. And barriers exist because something must be kept on the other side. The door opened, but the closet was empty. I was standing in the main lobby 20 feet away with no memory of how I got there. The curator was gone. And on the security desk, there was one final note. You have a choice, Sarah. You may leave this place and never return, or you may stay and accept that some questions have answers you are not ready to hear. Either way, you now understand. I am not the danger here. I am what keeps the danger away. See, I stood there for a long time holding that note. When Marcus arrived for his shift that evening, he found me sitting in the break room, staring at the wall. You saw them? Didn't you? He said quietly. I nodded. He sat down across from me. And you're still here? Yeah. Most people leave after that, pack up their stuff, and never come back. I thought about it, but I looked at him. But I need to know what they're protecting us from. Marcus smiled sadly. That's what the last guard said right before they found her in the Paleontology Hall. What happened to her? She broke the rules, went looking for answers. He paused. They never found all of her. I should have quit, walked away, found another strange job in another strange town. But I didn't, because the curator was right. Curiosity has always been my weakness, and now I know something is being kept contained here, something worse than moving fossils, locked storage rooms, or impossible floors. The curator isn't the mystery. They're the guardian. And whatever they're guarding against, I think it's starting to wake up. I'm still working at the museum, still doing my rounds, still following the rules, most of them anyway. Marcus says he's thinking about retiring, maybe moving south, somewhere warm, somewhere without night shifts. I told him I'd probably leave soon too, but that was a lie, because the truth is I'm not ready to go yet. This place, this strange, impossible building, has gotten under my skin, and I need to know more. I need to know what's in the West Wing storage room. I need to know who built the third floor. I need to know who the curator is. And I need to know what that skeleton in the Paleontology Hall is waiting for. Marcus warned me. He said people who dig too deep don't usually last long here. But I've never been good at taking warnings. So I'll keep working, keep watching, keep documenting. And maybe, eventually, I'll figure out what this place really is. Or maybe it will figure me out first.